So basically, we're going to just kind of do a quick overview of Zoho One, and that's going to help kind of set us up for the rest of this track. And then I'll talk a little bit about a customer as well, and show you kind of what's coming, and we'll do some questions as well. So Zoho One overview. We call Zoho One the operating system for business. The idea is that we're trying to bring together all of the different tools that an organization needs to run their operations. And we have quite a few organizations that are doing this. We then also have several that are running just major departments, whether it's their sales, marketing operations, or customer service operations, or service departments, or what have you. What this means, though, is bringing together and having one unified system. And the idea of unification is a really important theme these days for what we're trying to do. And I'm going to, try to convey that to you. Within the whole Zoho offering, you can think of Zoho One as kind of sitting at the pinnacle that brings together everything underneath it. How many of us really like some of the cool CRM for everyone features that were discussed earlier? Someone asked this question to me and they said, when that goes live, will I get that in Zoho One? And so absolutely you will. All the things that get updated in all these different applications are always brought into Zoho One. And then in Zoho One, we're trying to provide additional value on top of that. The way that I like to just try to kind of quickly explain Zoho One is when we look at the different departments that are in an organization, they're usually run by different people. They have different processes. They're trying to do different things. And for them to work, though, they have to have some kind of connection. There needs to be some level of process and data integration between them. However, historically, this is really complicated and expensive and time-consuming and causes a lot of problems. And so when we think about integration, we use it as a positive term, but from kind of the Zoho One perspective, it's kind of the term we want to get away from, because integration usually means having to build an integration, setting things up, and really getting into the weeds. With Zoho One, we're trying to have this kind of unified idea that works more as this kind of common platform that sits across all these different departments. So there's no piping between everything. Instead, the system itself just understands that there's different functions in the organization, different activities and processes that are going to need to be built out accordingly. And so to make that possible, we obviously have to have a lot of different applications to meet all of the different functions that different departments are doing. And so that's why we have all these apps and we continue to build more. But beyond that yellow block that sits across also has to be really intelligent and has to have new deep technology that is baked into it. And so that's where we get into things like search. How many of us have tried to find a customer record only to find out we're in the wrong system, and then we have to go log in somewhere else, and then we maybe find it there, right? What if there's just one search, like one Google-style search for all of your business data, right? That would be kind of nice. It's in Zoho One because we understand all of the complex data architecture, permission structures that allow something like that to happen. Took us 10 years to do it, but we have been able to figure it out, right? So we also showed some of the really cool AI features in the previous session with Raju. Those are being developed by a medium to long-term research and development team, an AI team. And then as soon as we make a breakthrough, we're able to push it across a bunch of products, and you then get the benefit of it. And that's why we can say, hey, look at what you can do in this Word document, in this spreadsheet, and also in custom application development. It's the same technology that's being pushed across that then multiple departments in an organization can utilize. So this is another example of one of these kind of common functions, which is analytics. So being able to bring all of the data together in the organization. There are over 1,500 pre-built reports and dashboards in Zoho One because we understand how the data is all connected. But we can also do, again, these kinds of fancy things where we need to create a new report. So we type and tell the computer what we want in our natural language as if we're talking to a coworker. Computer knows where the data is and is able to produce something for us. And within 2 clicks, we can put that on a shareable dashboard that will be updated in real time as soon as those databases are updated. Pretty cool, right? Okay, not cool. I'll work harder. Don't worry. So I mentioned the search, right? Being able to say, hey, show me a particular record. And it turns out that this is an employee, and we see the contact, we see any emails that we have with her, we see any chats, we see any tickets that she's associated to in the help desk, we see any quotes that she's attached to in the accounting software, by just having that one unified search to then move through all of this. The hard part, as I mentioned, is understanding the roles and permissions. Because if a CEO of the company does this, there's a certain set of information we would imagine they're able to see. If a day one intern does this, we would imagine they see very different information. So this is really what's so complicated about this, and it's why it's something that's very hard to do if you don't have this kind of unified approach. It's very hard to just build this on top of a bunch of random things. Now, if we can do report creation with natural language processing, that AI capability, if we have search, you can see that building reports and searching for data are kind of the same thing. And you can start to bring that together now, so you just have this kind of intelligent feature that is able to just give you what you want. You don't even have to think about it in the context of, I'm searching for something somewhere versus I'm trying to build a report. At the end of the day, we're looking to get some kind of information that we need for our job. So again, this is a way that we're unifying these distinct kind of areas in our technology. Is this cool? Is this slightly cooler? Okay, good Lord. Customization. So customization then is another really important part of all of this, because obviously there's a lot of different requirements that go into the processes that you're creating and the way that you need the software to work. So all of that, from the applications to the way that we're customizing something like business intelligence, or the way that we're using search or whatever, we have a bunch of requirements that we need to always make sure are right for our individual organizations. And to be able to do that, we have a number of developer tools, and they range from no code to pro code that allow you to create, extend, and integrate different tools within Zoho. Raju showed something that was so cool, and I can't believe that he didn't pander for an applause break, but did you see that? Creating a custom application in literally 30 seconds, that is pretty cool. So that's not even no code at this point. That's just texting someone, I guess, kind of way of doing it, right? So there's a lot of really cool capabilities that are coming in that Zoho One as this unified system is inheriting. And in terms of integration, we have tons of pre-built integrations with third-party vendors. Even though we try to do everything, we totally acknowledge we don't necessarily always do it the best for your organization. There might be third-party tools you prefer, proprietary systems that you're already heavily invested in. It's our job then to try to work with that as best we can and provide that kind of unified experience. Marketplace being another example of this, where extensions are built and can be plugged into your deployment. So this is kind of where we get into the next section, where we're going to talk a little bit about a particular customer. This customer is called Luxor One. They are based out of where I live in Sacramento, California, and they manufacture and deploy smart lockers for package delivery. So they're the kinds of things you see in grocery stores, or they might be in an apartment building or college campus where deliveries are done there. You can then go and get a code and pick up your package and leave. So as of 2022, they have done over 200 million package deliveries in the United States, and they have over 500 employees on Zoho One. And I think that some of what they're doing with Zoho One kind of speaks to some of the challenges that you all might be having as well, that Zoho One's kind of built to deal with. So first is data visibility and reporting. We often have this problem if we're using spreadsheets, for example, that, hey, do you have those numbers? Yes, they're on John's computer, which is at home, and John's on vacation, and John comes back to work, and now he's hurt, and he's out for a year, and we're never going to get those numbers, and now John has quit, and we never know what happened to them, right? That's the extreme example of data visibility not happening. But in a real world, right, anything that we're putting into these systems, we need to be accessible and we need shareable, so that way we can extract the insights to do whatever it is that we need to do. They had an issue around supply chain communication. But fundamentally, communication is always a challenge, and particularly now that so many organizations are both remote, hybrid, in office, mobile teams maybe that are out in the field, people walking through airports. It's very tough to make sure that you can communicate quick enough and with the right context across all of these different situations. And finally, as I said earlier, you have all of these different teams that are all dealing with their different processes, and these need to come together in some way so that you can actually serve a customer, build a product, meet some kind of deliverable. So that disconnection is a big issue. So for Luxor One, they had started with CRM like 10 years ago. And for them, they're looking for something that's like this all-encompassing tool or all-encompassing package. And they need a lot of flexibility and ease of use. Sometimes I think the kind of all-encompassing nature of Zoho One can be a little daunting and can feel a little like overkill. But ultimately, it all comes back to just what are the processes that we're doing? What are the problems that we're trying to solve? How can we pull in then the right tools and features that allow us to meet those goals? So ultimately, that's what they're looking for. So in terms of their own solutions and outcomes, they've improved customer experience and they've improved their operations and their employee experience. So kind of both sides of the coin here. In terms of the customer experience, one thing they did was they were able to unify their sales and support so they have a kind of a unified customer experience solution, which has been able to really improve their customer satisfaction and also help drive, more revenue. One thing they did too, they have Sales IQ where they have a chat bot on their website. They found that was pretty helpful, but then they decided to plug in ChatGPT to that Sales IQ chatbot to give it more functionality so it could do some sentiment analysis and just be able to craft more intelligent responses to the people that are trying to communicate with them on their website. So a lot of cool things that they've been able to do. And I think on the employee side, another really good example is being able to, significantly improve their company-wide communication with a tool like Zoho Click. So these tools are really helpful where we have our, individual chats, groups, org-wide channels, audio, video calling, being able to tie all of that in to one tool, and then in Zoho being able to push that tool across a bunch of other tools so that you have that kind of wherever you go. How many of us use that little window when we're in CRM or in Desk or whatever to do all of our chats? Cool, we'll move on. So what's coming next? I'll show you what's coming next. We are talking about increasing unification, right? So that's the kind of the whole picture that I've been trying to paint, is that we're trying to bring it all together and we're trying to unify all of Zoho so that we can serve the customer better. And there's a few things that we're doing here that I think are really nifty, and they are hopefully going to be out by the end of this year. So unifying notifications. How many of us have this problem where you get notified with something going on in an application because you're the admin, and then you get another notification for a different application and another one, and you have all of them in all these different places, and then someone says, hey, did we update this? And you go, I have no idea. And you have to go and look through, right? Not very fun. So our idea is to have one single unified notification system in Zoho One so that as an admin, everything can flow into that one place so you can stay on top of things and it'll be tied into our unified interface. Another really important issue is that there's often a lot of friction when we have a bunch of portals, right? How many of us are aware of this kind of portal concept in Zoho? So let me explain maybe an example. In like Desk, for example, we have a self-service portal where they can go and they can see their tickets, they can access a knowledge base, they can get updates on that kind of stuff. In something like Books, we have a portal that a customer can log into, see their quotes, see their invoices, any like store credit they have, what their billing address is, they can pay for things there, save their credit card, all that kind of stuff. All of these portals, there's a whole bunch of them across Zoho, are really cool and they do a lot of great stuff. The problem with them is that they each require an account that you have to create for your customer. And if you want to say, give someone the Desk one and the Books one, you have to give them two sets of credentials, which sucks, right? Not good. Not good. No one wants that. And that obviously creates a lot of friction for your own customer, and it then makes it something that's not as usable as it should be. So the thing that we're working on is unifying all of these portals. So that way we can say, let's just set up this for our customer, give them access to the books portal, the desk portal, and that can be set up under one set of credentials that they have. If we want to then bring in like custom apps, if we want to bring in some other tool, we can do that as well. We can embed reports, for example, in analytics, all sorts of cool things like that. Okay, integrations. As I've kind of said, integration is something that's a blessing, something that we're striving for, but it's not without its own challenges and costs, and they can easily get away from us. If maybe we've ever had this problem where there's some issue with one of our systems and we can't actually really figure out where the problem is coming from because we're kind of unsure at this point how this even works anymore, right? Sometimes we don't always have the best documentation for all the things that we've done. Maybe it was someone who set it up for us, like John, who is long gone, right? We're never seeing John ever again. And that creates a lot of problems. So again, trying to tie all of these different integrations together for admins in a unified integration panel where we can see what are all of the connections that we've turned on in Zoho, but then also what are some of the ones that we haven't that we might want to if we were trying to, get some value. We want to be able to offer a thing where we can say, hey, we know that you're using product A, we know you're using product B, why don't you see about, putting those together and maybe that'll work better for you. So at this point, we can do even more of the advising on maybe what the next step is just through a integrated panel like this. So those are some of the features that we're working on, but ultimately what we're trying to do is more than a feature, right? It's a whole direction. It's a very strong direction. And so what I want to just talk about for just a couple minutes is a more innovative direction that we're wanting to move in with Zoho One. And what we're calling it is spaces. So when we think about something like a house, just to step out of the business context, we obviously have a bunch of different spaces for different functions. There's private spaces, there's public spaces, semi-public spaces, even our home. There's spaces dedicated to particular activities like cooking, which requires a whole bunch of, items and various things that make that possible. And we have a very good sense of those being defined to the point that we wouldn't put really our kitchen in our garage and we wouldn't want to park our car in our living room, right? We have a very clear idea of those things. The idea in Zoho One under the spaces concept is basically breaking down all of the app structures that exist, CRM, books, desk, social, getting away from all of that completely and just going with functional, organizationally oriented spaces. So, for example, your own kind of personal space, a sales space, a marketing space, a service space, an HR space, etc. This is what the kind of personal space would look like. It's kind of hard to see because of the overhang here, but there's a tab on the left that says personal. And then under that, there is a row that has mail, it has click, it has password management with Vault, it has tasks, it has a calendar. All of the things that you need to do as an individual in an organization are all kind of assembled here. And you'd be able to then move between these to handle all of the kind of personal productivity and kind of tools, kind of processes that you'd be doing. If you then were to move over to the organizational space, you see that there is basically an employee directory that's being brought in that you can customize and you can arrange all of this information in different ways. This information is basically being housed in Zoho People, but now you're not really in People anymore. You're just in the organizational space where there's additional features like a town hall, company forums, a feed where you're able to post and comment and have some kind of discussion. Or you're also able to have different kinds of documents that are important to the organization, right? So I think we can kind of see where this is going. If we went to the HR space, which is more of this functional place, again, the top row, we have a self-service portal where we can see kind of our own profile or maybe someone else's. We could request leave. We can do all those different things. We can if we're, say working on the recruitment side, we would have that module that's available to us. So this is kind of I think the cool direction of Spaces. What do we think about this so far? Does this seem pretty cool? All right.